Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you Gillmore's Girlfriend versus JMWW2 in round 1 of the second community patch tournament. Today we are going to be seeing the map Omaha, and on the Allied side Gillmore is going to be playing with the 1st Infantry, and on the Axis side JM is going to be using the 17th SS-Panzergrenadier. This tournament is played on the Community Balance mod. Make sure to check it out with the link in the description to find out all of the changes to the divisions that we are seeing today, as well as many others. Let's talk about what changes there are for the 1st Infantry. So the 1st Infantry has been buffed overall. The Assault MGs have been increased from 3 to 4 per card, so you have more of those available for the longer range engagements. The machine guns that you can gain access to have been increased from 1 to 2 per card, so that actually maybe makes them worth bringing now. The Assault Bazooka Stealth has been increased from good to very good, which will allow it to be similar to Panzerschreck squads, but probably more effective, since I believe they have 2 bazookas instead of just 1. They've added a card of M7DDs in Phase C that gives 3 per card, but they don't have any veterancy. But they will be great for accompanying things like the M4s that you can get an abundance of in the late game. So we may see some sort of close range late game push with the M4 M7DD combo. That would be quite interesting to see. They've also added a card of bazookas in Phase B, 4 per card, with 2 stars veterancy in GMCs. So these will come in handy for some mid-game sort of AT ambushes. With that high veterancy, they're very unlikely to miss the mark. Now if we look over to the 17th SS, there has been some changes to them as well. They greatly benefit from the Stug price buffs, and since they have both Stug 3s and Stug 4s, that's quite significant. They also benefit from the price buff to the Grille, so that's good as well. But the only buff that they've received otherwise is a Stug 4 card added in Phase C, which is 2 Stugs on 1 card. Stug 4s, that is. So otherwise not much else. We're going to be seeing pretty much a similar playstyle from the 17th SS Panzergrenadier than we're used to. It's just they'll be a little bit more efficient with the extra Stugs on the field. Let's have a look at some of the units going down. So on the side of Gillmore, we have the 2-star infantry here, plenty of 2-star infantry in these ducks, accompanied by the command, and also an AT gun at the start. It's probably going to be a 6-pounder. These could be assault MGs or assault teams. Further down we have another command infantry. This is going to be the assault team. The assault team have the flamethrower icon, so up there it's going to be assault breachers and assault MGs. And on the bottom side, we got maybe assault breachers and assault MGs with an actual MG, the 50 cal. Another assault team, going to be some assault bazookas, and we have a mortar to follow up. Over on the side of JM, he has decided to bring a Stug 3 in at the bottom at the start, supported by an SBW221, which is going to be dropping out some recon. There's also some command there to make that a 3-star Stug 3. Then we see some Stosstroop accompanying some Panzergrenadiers. Further up, an IG-18, some Speertroop, and a Panzerschreck squad. On the very top side, another Panzerschreck, Stosstroop, command, and an SPW221 with that recon. I have a feeling that there's going to be a little bit of a gap in the middle for both players. And Gillmore's actually pushing into the bottom town and the very top side. He hasn't actually decided to place anything into the mid just yet, which could be a very big mistake that JM can take advantage of. If he notices this salient pushing forwards, he could always send one of his infantry squads up towards the center area and gain a lot of ground early on. Now this much infantry in the bottom town is not ideal. He's got 2 assault teams, he's got the assault breaches. If there was any artillery in the form of like Nebelwerfers at the start of the game, this would be a really terrible setup. But it looks like he is going to get away with it, with JM not bringing in a Nebelwerfer at the start. IG-18 now moving into position. All of the infantry on both sides just being spread out. Gillmore going to be trying to make some ground with the assault breaches. I really like the assault breaches with the 1st Infantry because they do have the 2 smoke grenades. And that allows them to be quite a versatile squad, keeping them from being seen at long range whilst also being able to get into close range to use those high explosive munitions. So assault MG is now moving up, and the assault breaches looks like they're going to be pushing straight towards the edge of the town. You can sit on the edge of the town, but there is a good chance that the Aufkläder will see those infantry moving if it has line of sight down the main road. So JM will be able to identify what he's up against, and therefore will unlikely push into this town knowing what's there. Now Gillmore has been given enough time to bring in some extra units to the centre. He will be looking to stop this +1 that he's given JM at the start of the game. Assault MGs now engaging the Panzergrenadier here. This is not an engagement that JM will want to take, because losing his command will leave the top side very vulnerable to surrender. We don't actually have any tanks on the field just yet. I believe the 1st Infantry in Phase 8 does gain access to Stuarts and the M4DDs. So can use those to punch a hole in JM's front line if he manages to avoid the Stug 3. But so far, Gillmore has been focusing very much on his infantry play. JM just remaining defensive at the moment. Hasn't tried to take advantage of the gap in the centre just yet, but is IG finally finding a shot onto some infantry, going to be hitting the duck. The duck does have the armour to stop it from dying to that IG, but the assault breaches unloaded just as the shell landed and actually ended up taking damage. Now it has been made neutral in terms of score gain. M1 gun though going to be going to the top side here. Assault breaches surrendering the 221 after the M1 gun hits it. Oh, Stosstroop engaging the assault MG at close range, while some of the assault MGs are engaging at longer range. It looks like this is going to fall in favour of the assault MGs, because with the 10 HE on target with 3-star veterancy, plus the 5 HE from the M1 carbines at close range, that Stosstroop just can't match up to the accuracy provided by that extra experience. These assault breaches do not want to be taking that MG fire from the Panzergrenadiers, and Gillmore is going to be rightly moving those back. But a passive start from both players at the start of this one. So JM's going to be bringing in another IG here. I'm really hoping that he brings in a Nebelwerfer at some point, because that will allow him to dismantle the large amounts of infantry that Gillmore has started to rely upon. But I'm not sure if JM really knows what Gillmore has right now. 221 did make a lot of ground moving into this town, and you can see that JM has completely captured this with no contest. Here's the assault bazookas now with their very good stealth. 2 bazookas they have, and 2-star veterancy. Scary unit indeed. You do not want to get ambushed by one of those. M1 gun shoots and misses the 221. But with an M4 on the way, that may be able to clean up this 221 if it gets into a close range engagement. And Gillmore is rightly going to be turning that to this salient rather than the top side. Although, there would be a case for moving this M4 to the top side and using it supported with the infantry to basically push through here, because there really isn't too much against him. But one thing I failed to mention at the start is that the 1st Infantry doesn't have any decent recon. they only have the recon aircraft. So they're very reliant on their infantry to basically provide information. And that means that they are very vulnerable to being ambushed by AT guns, because without a specific recon infantry squad, they don't have the optics good enough to spot the AT guns at range. Now we did see, I think, an M2A1 howitzer get taken down here. Very expensive unit to lose to an IG-18. Classic case of unloading infantry, or unloading artillery, sorry, way too close to the front line. It's something that quite a lot of players do. I see it quite a lot in competitive play as well, where people don't really appreciate the distance that they need to have their artillery. So they place them like 1,000 meters from the front line, and then they end up getting direct hit and or just counter batteried by units that shouldn't be able to counter battery them. So for example, a 1,200 meter mortar there would be able to do the job. But big engagement up here. Panzerschreck manages to take out the M4DD after the M4DD takes out the SPW221. Looks like that was a bit of a unintentional bait there. Gillmore fell into the trap as the M4 does get taken out. So I would say this bottom side is very strong for Gillmore. There's not much chance that JM's going to be pushing into there anytime soon, but he really does need to start to take control of the center of the map, because on the top side this terrain suits him quite well, but in the mid, this is where he needs to like take the advantage, because if he doesn't, then he has to end up fighting across this open ground, and that really just doesn't suit his division. Whereas if you sort of take the initiative and say, for example, take this town before the 17th SS have in this case, then you put yourself in a very good spot. Now we're seeing the 127mm rocket artillery coming in. Does manage to pin down the IG, but that artillery doesn't really do too much damage very often. So it's just going to be pinning those units, and since there's no unit that can really take advantage of that and find the surrenders, I think it's very unlikely that we're going to see that make a dent. You could use that off map over and over and over again, and it's probably not going to make too much of a difference. The IG's already recovered, and as the assault breachers try and push the Panzergrens, they might take an IG shot or two in the face. A little bit careless there by JM to lose that Panzergrenadier squad, didn't end up falling that back. This assault bazooka though, going to be going for a shot onto the 221 here. We're just out of range. Might be able to shimmy down the tree line a little bit and find that shot. These 221s though, they're not really worth too much. It's like 40 points. I think that's almost the same amount as an assault bazooka, so it would just be paying itself off with that kill. Assault bazookas should really be looking for kills onto things like the Stug 3. In this case, it's still a decent target, as long as the assault bazooka doesn't die in the process. So here comes another one of those off-map strikes. The M1 gun's actually going to take out the command there. But unless these rockets actually hit directly on target, it's really not going to do too much. Probably one of my like least favorite artillery pieces in the game, or off-map artillery pieces, because it just doesn't seem to have the effectiveness of other off-map units due to its caliber being so small. These assault bazookas, looks like they did manage to get a shot towards the 221 since it's falling back, but have now come under fire from the Panzergrens. Stug 3 going to be aiming and firing at the assault team here. This assault team currently moving through the orchard. The assault team will actually be pretty decent in this scenario, since it does have a reasonable amount of damage at range with the 8HE on its M1 Garand and BAR. The only thing that's lacking on this bottom side is command. This assault leader I feel like should be a lot closer to these infantry squads, since if the assault team ends up getting pinned down, then it will just be straight up surrendered, and that's not something you want to see. Assault team in this building is just being ruined because it's too close to the Aufklärer. Gillmore should definitely be falling back with that infantry squad. Sostroop, they're going to be trying to make ground. As soon as they get into the 100 meter range though, flamethrower is going to go out, and the Stoss troop will lose out either way. So Stoss troop very much hard countered by assault teams, because the assault teams can not only engage them from out of the 100 meter range, but when they get into the 100 meter range, they still win. IG has died on the top side, and now an M1 gun's going to be taking shots at the Grilla. That has been moved into line of sight. Assault MG going to be pinned by the IG-18. +1 still remains in favour of JM. And assault team's now dead, as the Aufklärer actually run them down. Nebelwerfer was brought in, did do a lot of damage to the assault team squad, but the assault bazooka still alive. I think because they're out of line of sight of the Aufklärer, they cannot be seen. And if the Aufklärer jumped into the building, then the assault bazooka would not be able to get close. But since they are in the open, okay, the Stug finds them anyway, and that's a very dead assault bazooka squad. Assault breaches do clean up the recon. JM definitely biting off a bit more than he can chew with that recon squad. And now we see an ongoing dogfight between the P-38 Lightning and the Focke-Wulf A8. Now I believe the Focke-Wulf should be able to outturn the P-38, and with the P-38 being quite a brittle aircraft, the Focke-Wulf will likely get the better of it, unless a second P-38 comes in, and there's some terrible micro there in the skies from the Focke-Wulf front 190. Does cause it to get shot down. Gillmore taking control of the skies with those P-38s. Now those P-38s can be very useful if they strafe units on the ground, like this IG-18 for example. They have a reasonable amount of HE, and with that decent veterancy, it can definitely pin down infantry squads quickly. But I'm very concerned for Gillmore at the moment, since the middle of the map here is still more or less uncontested. He also lost both of his assault teams on the bottom side for not very much. Now those assault teams are very expensive, and generally you can get quite a lot of value for money out of them, trading at least 2 for 1 with infantry most of the time. But down here, one of the assault teams died for free to the Stug 3, and then the other one died to the Nebelwerfer, plus probably the Panzergrens pushing in there. Now we have the 50 cal, and the 50 cals of the CGMC hitting the infantry in this small town. A little village there. Not too much ground is going to be made. I feel like without the Stuarts or even another M4, it's going to be really difficult for Gillmore to make significant ground. Because although this M1 gun's been doing a lot of work killing stuff on the top side, it unfortunately has been for nothing, because the ground hasn't been made afterwards. Nice ambush there from the Stoss troop, does take out the CGMC. Questionable as to why that unit was moving that direction in the first place. Same deal with this MGMC. I'm not sure why you'd want to fast move towards the town where your previous AA just got destroyed to a Panzerfaust. But maybe you didn't see it happen. IG-18 going to be trying to go for the MGMC. It's only on 1 health, so the MGMC might actually destroy that IG-18 completely. Yeah, especially with the help of the 50 cal there. IG is going to go down. So a couple of M3A1 half tracks here. They're going to get hit by the Panzerschreck. If the second shot can get off, that would be great, but it's not going to happen. Ideally in that position, JM wants to run the Panzerschreck back whilst it's reloading, and then back into the tree line when it's loaded, so that he can get the double kill. And the MGMC does manage to force back the Stoss troop. I think it may have been shot at by the Panzerfaust and it missed, because it's taken quite a bit of morale damage there, unless that was from the previous IG-18 engagement. That could be the case. Panzergrens having a go at this assault MG. It's going to be joined by the SDK of Z71, the Flakvilling getting involved. M1 gun now going to try and move down and into line of sight of this AA piece. Taking that out would score another kill for that M1 gun. M3A1 half-track rips through the Panzergrenadiers in the mid. This IG is trying to do work, but it's going to get pinned by the 50 cal. These 2-star 50 cals can be really, really strong because they have the accuracy with the HE to just do tons of damage. So the increase on veterancy or the increase on availability in the card is quite pronounced in this game. You can see that Gillmore is relying on these 2-star 50 cals quite a bit, and I can imagine other players doing so as well. It looks like on the bottom side a 3-star M1 gun took care of the Stug 3 that was sitting in the open without any recon ahead of it, so kind of got what it deserved. M7DD now moving up as well though, and this could be Gillmore's chance to push into the town on the bottom side. This M7 is going to get shots down the main road, which will hit the Schwimmwagen and the Opelblitz, bringing in some Sturmpioneers. And the infantry will automatically hide in the trees, so I doubt the M7 will get more than one shot off. But this M7, assisted by the assault breachers, could do work down this tree line. Still a +1 for JM, has a significant lead in Conquest, but I think due to a lot of the losses to this AT gun on the top side, he's actually behind in terms of KD, even though a lot of Gillmore's units have also died unnecessarily. But now we see the 170mm off-map coming down. If this hits the duck, that would be very, very nice, blowing that up. It may also end up killing the M1 gun here. M20 OP has been brought in with a 356mm off-map, and that's right in the middle of JM's off-map. Well, that would be tragic if the M20 takes a direct hit and dies. Doesn't look like it's going to. The M20 just pushing forwards. Not quite sure where it's actually going. He's looking to get the off-map onto the FK-18. That is relatively smart, as long as the M20 doesn't die in the process. IJ-18 here, managing to get the jump on the 50 cal this time, other than it being the other way around. And the 50 cal will be pinned down. Towards the mid, Assault Bazooka is going to get the ambushing shot onto the Panzer IV, ends up surrendering the tank. And, well, there goes a unit of infantry before it unloads, as the off-map hits that pretty hard. MGMC takes out the flak-filling, and if I'm completely honest, we're seeing some very odd engagements during this game. Like, it's not often you see like the classic AA on AA action, but these AA units on both sides have been used as close range infantry support. Now with things like the CGMC and MGMC, I can kind of see that working because they do have that extra armor which protects them from light arms fire. But when it comes to an SDK Z71 and also just the flag filling, having those two close to the front line can just be very costly. And this flag filling can be having a go at the M3A1 half track. It may be able to get the better of the M3A1 half track if it manages to reload in time. The half track here is going to get the pin. And if that's the case and the Panzergrenadier are out of range, then the flag filling could be surrendered here. Another 2v1, P-38's brought in to take on the Focke-Wulf. It's good that they both split in opposite directions, as it does allow for at least one of the P-38 Lightnings to likely get on the tail of the Focke-Wulf. And this M3A1 half-track providing light AA fire may just swing the tide of this engagement and cause the Focke-Wulf to go down, but the flag filling is recovering. But saying that, with the M3A1 nearby, that won't be for too long. Here comes the Lightning. It's going to be attached onto the tail of the Focke-Wulf 190, and that's going straight down. So the off-map was pretty effective. It did take out the FK-18 here. In terms of JM's off-map, well, he's going to go for the kill onto the M1 gun and the M20 OP, but he might want to move his Aufkläder since they may get hit in the face as well. And that would be not ideal, considering he's going to want to preserve his recon on that top side. They do actually die to that off-map strike, so not the best play. Sturmpioneers need to smoke themselves off if they want to get close to these assault breaches. Yes, the Speertroop can provide MG cover, but honestly, losing Sturm Pioneers before they get into the 100-meter range engagement is less than ideal. Nebelwerfer does hit this town. I don't think it really hit too much as the assault breaches were already pushing forwards. But to support the flak filling, there has been a Pak 40 brought in the middle. So M3A1's going to be trying to do some work. And the Pak 40 going to try and cover that off. Off-map strike from the M20 OP does clean up the off-map half-track, but I believe that was the last strike of the M20 OP. So no more 356mm off-map for JM to worry about. However, it does look like JM's pretty damn light on the ground. He's losing more units unnecessarily than Gillmore is, and that may severely affect his capabilities in the late game. Because the power spike for the 17th SS is really sort of the phase B into phase C. You don't generally play the 17th SS to play for the late game. It kind of more relies on the use of Nebelwerfers to kind of springboard you into phase C. But with only one Nebelwerfer on the field, it's very unlikely that much ground is going to be made. And there isn't any vehicles that can take advantage of units that may get pinned down by the Nebelwerfers. So that's another thing to consider. And these assault breaches just sitting there tanking the shots from the Speertroop at close range. Literally this guy is sat behind this wall just pounding these guys with MP40 fire and slowly but surely killing them off. Look at him go. What an absolute champion. We'll probably get strafed to death eventually by the P-38 Lightning. But until then, he can still try his best. So yeah, considering the lack of units on the side of JM, Gillmore still not making ground. This is, I believe, an M5 gun. Oh no, it's actually an M1 gun. An M1 gun, if brought up to this position, would be quite good. As it could cover that top side road quite well. Could also end up killing off the guerrilla from an ambushing position. SDKZ-72 being brought down to the bottom here. Again, the classic AA warfare coming into play. P-38 Lightning going for the bombing strike onto the SDKZ-72. Misses its bombs due to stress. So much AA being brought in these games. Well, in this game specifically. There's a couple of SDKZ-72s and you got an SDKZ-71. I'm still waiting for the Stugs to come out, because the Stugs are assault guns at the end of the day. They're really good for supporting infantry at close range. They do lack, obviously, a turret, but due to their kind of high AP values, if they hit the mark, they generally get the kill. So you can kind of rely on that with their 6-base accuracy to take on things like Shermans. But since we're now into phase C, it does look like Gillmore is going to be starting to move these Shermans onto the field. I would have liked to have seen armour earlier on in the forms of the Stuarts and maybe another M4DD in order to create more aggression. But better late than never, right? P-38 Lightning going to be having a go at the Panzergrenadiers here to help pin those down. Although the MGMC going to be getting that job done. Rifles continuing to move forwards. This is something that Gillmore's going to want to do. Bring in more of those rifles, support the M4A1s, and really just sweep through either the bottom side, the mid, maybe not the top side, because the top side is the most defended part of the map right now. The mid's almost completely undefended, especially if this Pak 40 ends up dying. And so is the bottom side, with just AA really in the way. Now there is a Stosstroop squad here, and it has been engaging some of Gillmore's infantry already, so I'm very surprised to see him let that get so close to the potential Stosstroop squad that could have already jumped forward in that position and taken the shot. Bit of careless driving there from the M4A1. Flak filling is going to end up getting killed finally in the center. That flak filling took a lot of punishment. That crew, absolute champions, just tanking 50 cal rounds all day long. M3A1 now engaging the SD-7-2. You can see how evenly these are trading in terms of morale damage. The SD-Z72 going to be falling back, and as it changes its target to the P-38 Lightning, well, it could end up dying to the 50 cal, honestly. So it's going to get behind cover just in time, but that allows the M3A1 now to engage the Pioneers in the open and do plenty of damage to those. Oh, will the 1 health AT gun be the deadliest as it engages the M4A2? Yes, it will. That was a very nice shot from an unvetted Pak 40. Of course, it did engage at 700 meter range, which does give it the accuracy boost that it needs, but still, that was a clean shot onto the M4. The 1 health AT guns, still the deadliest. Assault Bazooka team going to be going down there to the Pioneers that were let into that tree line. Bit careless from Gillmore's girlfriend, but should be able to clean them up with the rifle since they're now pinned down. That command is going to be dead, but here comes Pak 40 once again, or here comes an M4A1 once again, straight into the jaws of the Pak 40. Will it find the kill? It's on return fire. Will JM notice? He does. He fires and he misses. I believe he's not going to be able to get off a second shot, since the M4A1 is going to aim very quickly indeed, and the Pak 40 does go down, along with the dreams of the 1 health AT gun. So, Assault Leader and Recon ended up taking out the SOS troop, and the M4A1 is free to move forwards. However, the Nebelwerfer perfectly timed here to stop that push in its tracks. Might end up killing the Assault Leader as well, which would be very nice, because that would remove the extra veterancy from the M4A1 and allow that to be potentially surrendered if there was a unit to surrender it. But in this case there is not, but killing the command here is still nice regardless. That removes all of the infantry from that bottom side, making it very vulnerable to a quick push. Nice bombing strike there from the P-38 is going to clean up some more recon. Killing any recon squad is always very good in this game, as information is key. But good to see a Stug on the field now from JM. The only Stug that we've seen before this was the 3-star Stug. Now we're seeing the Stug 4, which has been decreased in price from 180 to 170 in the community balance mod. We'll be able to engage this M4A1 from out of range. Ends up firing at the recon, since I think it's just out of line of sight of the M4. This Pioneer is still alive, but end up revealing themselves. And they're going to take a lot of MG fire. Because they're not on return fire, I think they just ended up opening up with a machine gun. But currently, we see that it is still a +1 in favour of JM, and although I think Gillmore's girlfriend's had plenty of opportunity to win this game, he just hasn't found the ground. It seems as though he's very, or maybe just too patient, or maybe too worried about what could be, and hasn't decided to invest in the recon in the mid to late game to find out that there's nothing there. I'm not sure we've even seen any of the recon squads. It's definitely something that's been lacking from Gillmore's gameplay, and is a factor at the moment. The other way that you can get around using recon with the 1st Infantry is the rifle run. You know, like just run rifles at the enemy and hope that you basically spot any infantry that fires at you, and then use the M4s to clean those up. But honestly, recon. Simple as that. JU-88S is going to be coming in with the bombing strike. P-38 Lightnings will be intercepting that, but that bombing strike has done its job more or less, if there was another unit to surrender these units. There's no command here, so if a unit came bolting down that road right now, we would see a mass surrender. Not going to be the case though, and thus probably a wasted bombing strike. These SDKFZs, for some reason, were trying to push the M4. One ends up dying. I think two actually ended up dying. Trying to push into that M4. But if this M4 just attack moved forwards, it could probably kill the SDKFZ 7-1, the 7-2, and the Stug 4, since the Stug 4 would be engaged at close range, and the M4A1 would snapshot it most likely. So, yeah, once again, Gillmore lacking the aggression in order to take advantage of the kills he has made on the top side, especially with all of those M1 gun kills. Just didn't take advantage of it as he probably should have, but just maybe lacks the experience compared to other players in the tournament. JM's just chilling though. I mean, there is no rush for him really. He has the lead with 1,061 points. Major victory in 8 minutes for him. So as long as he doesn't lose too much ground in a short amount of time, the victory should be his at this point. We are seeing another FK-18 getting involved. That's going to be trying to pin down the Bofors. Maybe JM's planning to bring in another airstrike, but he's going to have to deal with the M4A1 first. Marder 3 is in line of sight to get that shot on target. Just needs to hit the mark now. Finds the shooter wound. That's not ideal since it does force the M4A1 to fall back, and the Marder 3 will therefore lose line of sight. A better critical would have probably been driver wound, because then the Marder 3 would have likely finished the job. But in this case, not going to happen. SDK 7-1 being engaged by the rifles here. The rifles might find themselves pinned down, but P-38 Lightning coming in with its bombing strike might do the job. Yes, indeed. Those are the big bombs, the 25 HE power. Marder 3 cleans up that M4 very nicely. This M4 has actually been sat here for so long that JM's been able to bring in 2 units of Panzerschrecks all the way to the front line. One of them might end up dying, since it's going to unload in line of sight. But never mind, there's no recon. And he's going to be able to jump that in range, and the M4A1 will soon be shot at unless the M4A1 gets on target in time. That was quite impressive there. This Panzerschreck, sorry, will probably end up getting the kill, since it will be in a more ambushing position. Right, here comes the 210mm off map onto these rifles and so on. P-38 Lightning going for the bombing strike onto the Grilla. Another unit of infantry is going to be in JM's artillery strike. He needs to make sure that falls back. Same with this Aufkläder here. Just need to move him out of the off map as it comes in. Looks like there's not going to be a concentrated strike either, so it's going to be very limited in its effectiveness. Here comes an M4A1 pushing on the bottom side. This is where Gillmore is going to end up pushing forwards very aggressively towards the end of the game and realise that he was actually fighting against nothing. There is quite simply a Nebelwerfer defending the bottom side of the map. And defending is probably a generous word. The Opel Blitz munition will just be captured, and this is a lot of ground gained for Gillmore in a very short amount of time. But in order to win, he's going to require an absolute miracle. Because he's too far behind really in terms of score. The Stug 4 looks like it's moving back to maybe try and intercept the M4 as it continues to move up the road, but with the salient opening up like this, the M4 could just go hide in the orchard and kill any more reinforcements that come down the main road, or even cut off the land spawn entirely. In the middle though, the Panzerschreck is going to find the ambush onto the M4. That's going to go down. SDKFZs can continue their frontline carnage against enemy infantry. Well, the Panzerschreck getting sniped there by the P-38 strafing run. Imagine how accurate you would have to be in that P-38 to snipe one man on the ground. That would be quite impressive, actually. Rifles are going to get burnt out by an abundance of Stern Pioneers on the top side. But that is a very well-timed P-38 lightning strike. Wow. That did plenty of damage to the infantry on that road. M4A1 tried to make the push for the spawn. Didn't quite make it in time. Panzer IV comes in, kills off the M4, and there goes the salient. And Gillmore's girlfriend's dreams are crushed. The 210mm off-map is going to be able to do some more damage to these rifles and so on. But again, the Grille way too close to this off-map. If that lands on the edge just here, it could kill his Grille. It would be pretty unlucky if that happens, but you never know. Not ideal to off-map your own units though, if I'm completely honest. One thing I would say is, from if Gillmore's actually watching this, is to just watch the replay himself and look at the moments in the game where he could have exploited the kills that he got. Because there were so many times when a single tank could have literally broken a hole in the front line, like a massive salient. But those opportunities were very easily lost due to him being very passive in his play. And we're now seeing another M1 gun being brought in the M3 half-track. That needs to unload ASAP, as it will be able to engage the 222 as well as the Panzer IV down the road. Stug 4 does manage to clean up one of the M4A1s. P-38 lightning strike might just save the second one, as that Stug would probably kill them both if it had the time to do so. Ju-87G coming in, and after all of the AA that was on the field for most of the game, I'm surprised to see a Ju-87 get through, but is going to get shot down. Doesn't manage to get the kill onto the M4A1 anyway. Looks like this M1 gun's finally going to be unloaded. But no chance really for Gillmore to come back in this game. It is 50-50 and has been a relatively close game between the two players. But I feel like both players did have opportunities to exploit the other and failed to identify the damage that they had done. And that's quite simply it. It's just paying attention to what you're killing. Because if you know what you're killing, you can definitely take advantage of that. In a sense that if you know you kill a Panzer IV here, that's 140 points down the drain. It's quite a lot. Because the income of the 17th SS is only 130. So he's got to wait at least another minute before he has another Panzer IV. And in that minute, you can do a lot of stuff. You can go very far, especially with something like an M4. So that's just something to keep in mind for all new players, really, or newer players. Maybe not even new players. Maybe even veteran players who don't play very aggressively. Pay attention to what you kill and try and take advantage of that. Like, that's when fast moving an M4 through the front line is acceptable, when you know that you've killed potentially the only thing that could kill it, like an AT gun or a Stug. You know, like if a Stug 3 died here in phase A when there's only 75 income, you could potentially just drive an M4 DD straight through, knowing that there's unlikely to be another unit that could take out your M4. I was hoping to see the M4 snapshot the Stug 4 at close range there towards the end, but not going to be. That is a 40-minute game, and JM is victorious with a negative KD, and that's just what I was saying, really. Explained in score: 3,460 kills to 2,925 losses for Gillmore's girlfriend, but lost the day due to a lack of aggression. So in terms of kills, this M1 gun was doing work on the top side, killed the 223s, killed the Grille, killed the 221, and with those units gone, there wasn't much else left there defending. Maybe a unit of Stoss Troop or something, but nothing that couldn't have been taken out by an infantry push supported by an M4DD. Assault bazookas did manage to clean up the Befehl Panzer IV and took out a Pak 40. The assault breaches there trading 3 for 1, very good. The P-38s were actually well microed by Gillmore's girlfriend. He managed to shoot down 2 Focke-Wulf A8s. I think the first one that got shot down was partially due to JM's mistake, but otherwise those P-38s were actually used quite well throughout the game. I liked a lot of the bombing strikes as well. This M1 gun killed the Stug 3. That Stug 3 was left out in the open just that little bit too long, and the M1 gun took advantage. With the stealth increase on the AT guns, the first shot is way more deadlier than it normally is because you just don't see them coming. This M4 though did get quite a lot of points worth. Pak 40, 2 SDK Z71s or 72s. Another recommendation for both players is maybe not keep your AA too close to the front line. Like, I'm quite bad for having my AA close to the front line, but when it's engaging enemy units that can potentially kill it, you should probably move it back. The P-38 there did manage to get a kill onto one of those with the bombing strike. M4A1 managed to push through and get that Nebelwerfer and the upper bullets munition. It wasn't quick enough. I think Gillmore kind of hesitated with that salient. He could have just continued fast moving down that road, completely ignored the Stug 4 that was moving from the mid, and managed to get to the spawn before the Panzer IV came in. The Panzer IV in the end did get the the M1 gun in the end did get the Panzer IV. Let's have a look at the losses. That's the kills from JM against Gillmore. We see that the IGs did pretty well. This one taking out the M2A1 howitzer. Big mistake there to lose that by Gillmore. People need to take more care with their ranging on their artillery. Make sure that it's not counter battery. The reason you have an M2A1 is because you can have it at 1,600 meter range, and if something tries to counter you at the 1,600 meter range, you can probably pick it up and move it to the 2,000 meter range, and so you always have an advantage with your artillery. Now, there is the argument to be made that the closer the artillery is, the more accurate it is, but honestly, that's not worth being counter batteried. Because if you're being counter-batteried, it's completely inaccurate and maybe even completely offline. You know, you just can't use it. So I'd rather it be usable and maybe a bit less accurate than just not usable at all. The Guerrilla here actually did quite a lot of damage. It killed the M20 OP. That's a Guerrilla that paid itself off very nicely, especially considering they have been buffed in price down to, I think, 70 points. The Marder 3 managed to kill off the M4A1 and the Stug 3 did okay. So some of the late game units really brought back the game for JM in terms of KD, but not enough to get positive. In the end though, doesn't matter, JM gets the win, and that's it from me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.